Hey everybody, this is Jen, and I'm just gonna say it. I really wanted to do this video, and I kind of really wanted to do this video in this location. I feel like it's a really good spot, but it's windy, and I'm literally right next to kind of where the wave's breaking, and a bit of it, I'm on a jetty. I don't know if you guys can see that, but anyway. So the sound quality, sorry. You guys are gonna hear the sound of the waves in the ocean, and I hope that my voice does some justice here. So, and I'm also don't have my beautiful, wonderful friend Naomi to film this, so I'm basically holding this with my hand and hoping for the best. But I really wanted to show you guys this spot. This spot I'm actually at, literally this little break is 200 meters from my house, and I'm kind of going to look out here because I'm actually looking for the spot. So the last video I talked a little bit about the myths around paddling hard, and if you haven't seen that video, check out part 1. My phone battery died, so this is attempts for part 2. Hopefully it works. And the reason why I keep looking behind me, you guys can probably see the waves are actually breaking behind me. This little spot's called Stinky's, and it's like 200 meters from my house. So I can literally just throw a longboard on my head and walk down here. This little wave, though, taught me so much about how to find the spot. So if you haven't seen part 1, big summary was I was talking about that one of the things that's actually more important than how hard you paddle is actually where you're paddling to. And that's the spot I'm talking about, because it doesn't really matter how hard you paddle. If you're not paddling in the right direction, if you're not paddling to the wave, if you're not positioning yourself properly, then your paddling is really just a waste of energy. It really doesn't matter how hard you paddle. I'm just gonna probably, there we go. Maybe I can, there we go. I'm gonna try to hold this in a more comfortable way, and hopefully you guys can still see me. So the spot. In part 1, I started to talk a little bit about what the spot actually might look like and how to recognize what the spot is. I was talking a little bit about how waves often curl or kind of curve around and wrap around the bottom of the sea to create and break. They create a peak and then they break. So, depending on what the bottom of the ocean looks like at your surf break, of course it's going to look a little different, but all waves that we want to ride have some sort of a peak, and then they break from the peak onward, right? So the peak is the spot. We kind of want to be at the peak, but one of the tricky parts about waves is they don't move in this perfectly uniform direction. So, when a wave is coming in from the ocean, here I'm in a huge bay, so open ocean, it wraps into the bay, and then it wraps around the local rocks and reefs and stuff, and sandbars and all that kind of stuff near the beaches, right, to create waves. Well, that water is moving around, and it doesn't always hit the rocks and the reef in the exact same way. That's a long way of saying that every wave is going to be different, and it makes reading waves a little bit tricky. And again, I keep looking back because I really want to show you guys, if I have opportunity, I'm going to turn around the camera and actually film a little bit of this small wave breaking behind me. I just don't see any waves that are happening right now because it's pretty small right now. It's a bit windy, a little bit choppy. So this perspective, though, is a really great perspective to actually see how a wave can wrap around an object. And even if it's the tiniest little wave, when we're in that little pocket, that's where the most of the force of the wave is actually generated. So if we paddle to there and we paddle there, we're actually being the most efficient with our paddling. So we might have to paddle really fast and really hard to get to the right position. And we also need to make sure that we're paddling in the right direction. And what does that mean? So it means that if you're not at the spot, you have to paddle towards the spot. But the other little trick I see is that you have to continue to paddle towards the spot. Because if you switch directions and start paddling away, maybe you're trying to angle and nosediving and all those things, and we could talk about that in another video. That's another layer to positioning. But essentially is we need to make sure that we're actually following through so that we'll land in the place we need to land to position ourselves properly. And actually you guys can kind of see some little waves behind me. I'm gonna see if like this little tiny wave that's breaking behind me, I'm gonna see if that actually does anything. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So you guys can see the spot. You can actually see that there's a girl who was attempting to paddle for that wave. And if you noticed, she was actually the spot. I don't know if you could actually see how it formed like a little pocket, but you could actually see that she was maybe like 3 or 4, maybe 5 meters away from the center of that pocket. Because that particular wave was, let's face it, a crappy little tiny wave with no power. It's harder to catch it if you're not right on that particular spot. Talking about little tiny baby waves, but you might be thinking, okay, Jen, that's great for, ankle high peelers, but what about if I'm surfing, chest high to head high? It's still important because what you're doing is you're training yourself to look for the spot and also the quality of the spot. Is it a tiny little wave? Is it a weak wave? Is it a stronger wave? That's just going to tell you level 2 or layer 2 how you're going to position yourself in respect to how the wave is going to shape and form and the speed of the wave. That's another thing I'm going to get to that eventually. But what I really just wanted to kind of explain is exactly what does the spot look like and why it's so important to paddle towards those. So for example, for her, if she was actually paddling more towards me, which would be towards her left, she might have actually caught that wave. I mean, there could have been other factors as well coming through. But this is where we can actually start to discern. And again, one of my big tips in video 1, if you haven't checked that out, is if you didn't catch a wave, if you missed the wave, study where did that wave actually break. If it broke on the beach, it probably was too small and weak, so don't worry about it. But if you turn around and someone a little bit more inside caught it, look at where were they? Because they were at the spot. And what is it about that spot that looks different? And I recommend to start to actually paddle to the spot. So put yourself not just closer to the spot, but actually at the spot. And if you're still a little bit confused, I'm gonna do a few more videos on this. This is a multi-layered one. I know this video is a little bit long, but I wanted to, there's a wave coming right here. So really good example. So if you guys can see, that guy went right. You could have also gone left on that wave too. So there was a peak in the middle. There was the way that that gentleman went to the left, or sorry, to the right. But you could also, actually that's another perfect example. I don't know if you guys can see that behind me. That nice curve that comes through. I don't know how well it's coming through in the video. Anyway, this video is kind of getting on the longer side. I'm gonna cut this short for today, and I'm gonna keep layering. If you guys have any questions about, if you're still not getting it, if you want some more videos, I can definitely film some here from, this is a great little perspective. I might actually film a couple more videos to post a little bit later on in the week, just to kind of get you guys looking for where's the spot. And I encourage you, go to your local surf break, wherever you surf, start to look for that curve. Look for where the wave is actually peeling around. So there's another really good example. You guys can see that right there. And it has like a little bit of a curve to it. The other thing you're gonna notice is the curve will change directions. Sometimes it comes in from the right, sometimes it comes from the left. So notice that the water is moving. The spot might still be the same, but the direction that the water is moving around the spot is going to be different, and that is going to be a key for you to understand. Here's another wave right behind me. There we go. So that one a little less obvious. But as you start to kind of see these waves kind of come in from different directions, the water moves around the spot differently. So that's going to tell you the direction that the wave is coming in is the direction that you need to paddle towards the spot. Anyway, hopefully that's all making sense. If you guys have questions, if you need clarification, let me know. I just had to pause there to see if I was going to get wet. Anyway, sending you all tons and tons of love. I know this video is a little bit longer than the others. Hopefully it's of service to you. Sending you tons and tons of love. Mwah.